So if we go to player, we can select these positions, and obviously you can see that it's pre-filled, so you can kind of see what's in this box here. So if we go back to the goalkeeper and you click edit, it will then bring up like a similar sort of view to the team instructions, but it's for that individual player. So you can sort of go through these and decide how you want it to be, how you want it to distribute, who you want it to distribute it to, how you want it to do it. Everything's here pretty much. So at the moment what I do is I do take short kicks to my fullbacks, slow pace down. I've started doing this recently. I've found that when I didn't do that, it actually booted it really quick and my players were just trying to get themselves up the pitch. So slow the pace down, especially because I'm playing like a retain possession formation. I want to just slow the pace down and then let everyone push forward and then just give it to the fullback nice and easy and then just start building from the back. Shorter passing, or you can go more direct if you want, and then fewer risky passes. 100% I would do that. Don't want him doing anything too silly from there. You've then got your wing backs. Now this is the one that I put the most on. As you can see, it's changed for this, and it will change per position, and you can basically select whatever you want. So it's kind of quite similar to the team instructions page again. Mark tighter. Yes, I want you to mark tighter. Closing down. I don't really want them to close down more because the way that the closing down works is that it depends on the area. So if you take this little part of the pitch for an example here, that might be, say, his sometimes region. Might be, oh, well, anywhere in this space here, I'll close down, or wherever he is on the pitch. So say he was like instead of being there, he was here. You might want to go like that'll be his sometimes region. If I put it onto much more, he would probably end up running into any of this to close a player down, which obviously you don't really want with a fullback because he might end up just completely running out of position and you've left a massive gaping hole. Tackling, you can select whatever you want from there. Hold positions, self-explanatory. And then you've got these, so you can either get him to sit further in. So if you can imagine him moving to like there, and that's where he'll sit, which is like a bit more solid, but obviously gives the other team a bit more width out wide. You can leave him in the centre, or you can tell him to stay wider. And obviously get further forward will mean that you can't hold position if you're doing that. And because I'm playing with wing backs, that's what I select. You can select what you want him to do when he gets the ball. So in this instance, I want him to run wide, how you want him to pass it, where you want him to cross it from. If you leave that, he'll do both of those. Cross more, cross less, dribble more, dribble less, shoot less often, definitely. Fewer risky passes, definitely. And then you can decide where you want him to cross it to. And I usually just select centre unless I've got a target man. So that's my fullback done. And then what I'll do is I'll flick over to the other fullback and then I'll just do exactly the same thing, but in the opposite way, because obviously he's staying wide is to go left because he's a left fullback. Centre, fewer risky passes, shoot less often. Okay, so then to make sure, I'll just flick between the two, and then as you can see, they're exactly the same. So I've got the same player instruction on them. Then I go to my central defender. Just tick mark tighter on this, that's all I do, which you can see because he's a defender, he's already got these three already pre-selected. And then I'll do the same on the other one. And then we've got the ball winning midfielder, so he's already holding position. If I was to change this to support, it would allow me to just decide what I wanted him to do, but because he was defend, it automatically sets it as hold. So again, I'll just say mark tighter, maybe shoot less often. Don't really want him shooting from there. Okay, so let's do the middle one first. So I play a little bit strange with the way that I do this because I want them to push forward kind of as like a 5 and then the two fullbacks pushing on. I'll get further forward to him, more closing down, so that I don't mind these three just going and chasing anybody down, to be honest. Mark tighter. And you could select one of these if you want, but I'll just leave that because I'm just letting him decide what he wants to do. And then for these two, I do something slightly different. So again, I'll do that, get further forward, but move into the channels. And what that does is that'll mean that he'll come out here. So say my fullback's just left here, they've stayed defensive, he'll push out and sort of make that width. So it'll more turn into like a 4-1-1-3-1 sort of. And that does generally work, is that they'll move into the channels. And what I'll usually try and do is try and get like a right footer and a left footer, so that when he moves out, he might try and cross it in from there. You've then got your advanced playmaker. So I do like them to close down more. Don't really want him to mark any tighter. Get further forward. Sometimes I'll put move into channels just so that he gives a little bit of width as well, so that he's kind of moving around the front. But in this instance, I'm going to leave him. And that's all I'll select for him. And then for advanced forward, just chase down a bit more. I'd sometimes do fewer risky passes just so that when he kind of gets it, he'll hold it up a little bit better. Obviously, the hold up he's not doing at all, but if you do fewer risky passes, then he kind of is holding it up. And sometimes I'll select shorter passing just so that he'll just work with whoever's closest to him. So yeah, I'm going to do that on this one. Actually, we'll take fewer risky passes out because I might want him to play a few risky passes up there. And then that's it really. That's this screen done. What you can do from here as well is, so let's say we've got a striker up here. You can actually add specific players in. So say when Adair is playing up front, you can add Adair in, and then you can change his. So you might want him to not pass it shorter, and then everyone else will pass it shorter, and Adair won't pass it shorter. So you can select it per player in that position. I don't really ever do that. I usually buy players that are quite similar in each position, so it's not like I need to change anything drastically between them. So that's the player instructions, team instructions, and at this point now, once you've done your player instructions, I would recommend saving it, and then that'll then save all of this and all of the stuff that you've selected in here as well, which means that you don't have to do it again. And then you basically can just make another formation from here. So if so let's just save this one. So let's do, Inter. So we've got 4-1-3-1-1 Inter has been saved. What I'll then do is, say I want to play exactly the same as this. I'll just load this one, and then it'll do copy of, and you can select this and say I wanted to play, let's just move him there. Say we wanted to play with 2 up front in this one. You've basically then got 2, you've kept all of this, and then when you go into the player instructions, the only player will have changed. All of these will be the same now. The only player you need to change is the new one that you've selected. So just change him to more, maybe shorter passing. And that's another formation done. So then you could save that, and then you could do another one. Copy that again, and maybe you want to do, say, if you wanted to go a bit more defensive, you could do another ball winner in there just to clog things up. And again, you just need to do this, guys, so mark tighter. So then you've basically got yourself 3 formations really quickly, all playing the same way. You might want to change a couple of these, but it just means that you don't have to do them all each time that you've got, once you've made one, you don't have to add absolutely everything into here. Next thing to look at is your set pieces. So this is very, very self-explanatory. You've got the attributes for each of the corners, and for the free kicks, and for the throw-ins. Throw-ins I don't really look at too much. I usually like to do like shorter throw-ins. So obviously a long throw isn't really necessary, but for corners and free kicks I would definitely do it. So in this instance you've got Kandreva, looks like he's the best for both. So let's just filter by that. And then Jean Mario, and then maybe Ansaldi, and then for free kicks maybe Perisic as well, and Adair, and then you could do Jovetic if you wanted to, and that's basically it. Now the thing to notice on this is that this is on this formation. If I swap over to this one and go to set pieces, it gets rid of them, which is pretty annoying to be honest. So you will need to do that again for each of the formations. So I won't bother doing it on this, but it's exactly the same sort of thing. And penalties is slightly different. So obviously Icardi's going to go on the pens, maybe Kandreva. I don't usually select as many as this, but you might as well. These have actually got really good penalty takers, to be honest. That's on this formation. If you go back to this one and go to penalties, that'll keep them in. So the penalties you don't need to do, but the rest of the set pieces you do need to do. The reason for that is that when you actually go to this, obviously these players will change positions. Obviously you might have a defensive midfielder in a different formation. So yeah, it's just something to look out for, is making sure your set pieces are set up. I'm not actually going to go in depth into the set pieces because I think that's an episode in itself, to be honest. But what I will say is that when you're doing your attack, I found that a 6-yard box is quite good with like an attack near post, and also if you put your other defender on challenge keeper, then he'll kind of be stranded. He'll whip it in, and hopefully one of these will get. Yeah, we'll get the red on it and nod it in. And I found that I've scored quite a few corners from that, so that might just be something to look out for if you just want to do something quite quickly. I don't really change. I mean, I should do, but because it takes so long, I usually just can't be bothered to do it, to be honest. Even though I've found that once I do it, I usually don't draw as many games. I'll kind of win the games because it might be like a corner that gets you the win, but yeah, I don't usually spend as much time as I should do on it, to be honest. And then you've got your captains. So obviously, if you wanted to set your captains, you can. I don't usually set this, and you don't really want to change this because it will say, I think it might do it if I do it now. Yeah, are you sure? He's not going to be happy if you change him, so no, I don't want to change him. Opposition instructions, you can do this each game, or you can set it from here. So I always do tight marking on all the strikers and all of the attacking midfielders. And I'll also do it on the wingers. And I'll also do it on the wing backs. Oh, never. And then I'll also close them down as well. It's another thing that I hate doing, to be honest. And then I'll always show everybody onto the weaker foot apart from centre defenders. So I don't need to do everything on this, but you get the gist. And all of that apart from sweepers. Goalkeeper doesn't need it either, to be fair, and just the central defenders. So all of this from sort of, yeah, so all of that will be filled with weaker foot as well. Analysis is quite good, but obviously I haven't got any matches yet, but from here you can sort of see where the goals have been scored, where the assists have come from, which is quite handy because you can see where the assists have come from in terms of the other team, which means that if you concede a lot of goals from your left-hand side, it's probably your left-back's fault, or maybe you're going to need to play with a 4 across the midfield as well to give you a bit of extra cover on the wings. If it's coming from the middle, something's going wrong in here. Maybe your defensive midfielder's not pulling his weight. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the tactics screen.